Ladies and gentlemen, you can see a Newsweek article below in the description section. It's the last thing in the description section. Schumer telling Brett Kavanaugh he'll, quote, pay the price. And you can see you can hear and watch the actual video of Schumer saying that. Here's the quote. It's within the Newsweek article below in the description section. Quote, I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. Schumer, who was then minority leader, said at the time, quote, you won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. Is this the democracy that Democrats talk about? Is Trump the menace to democracy, or is it Schumer? Is it people like Democratic politicians who block a bill to protect the Supreme Court justices, especially the conservative Supreme Court justices? Could you imagine, God forbid, if conservatives were outside liberal Supreme Court justices' addresses? Could you imagine, God forbid, if that took place? Could you imagine the indignation from Jimmy Kimmel and Hollywood and Democratic politicians? Could you imagine the problem with the problem with American politics is that there's so much hypocrisy, and the hypocrisy is coming mainly from one political side. Okay, 20 years ago, the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld Republican Party was the epicenter of corruption. They're now all embedded within the Democratic Party. Today, the epicenter of corruption is within the Democratic Party. They have virtually, I should say, the media narrative always backs one political party at the expense of Trump and conservatives. Okay? So you won't CNN won't say, oh well, Democrats blocked a bill to protect the lives of Supreme Court justices. They'll say the bill stalls. Or they'll just say that Trump was installed by the Kremlin because of a Steele dossier purchased by his direct political rivals. See, the person that doesn't really know much about politics, but is very passionate and very interested in condemning and judging others, generally votes Democrat. That person possibly voted Republican 20 years ago. The world has shifted. It's now in reverse. The tables have turned. The mindless kind of, condemnation and judgment used to be from the right to the left. Now it's from the left to the right. And so the shoe's now on the other foot. You have Democrats who want to intimidate. They can't defeat. So perhaps 20 years ago, Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld couldn't defeat or refute arguments or criticism or opposing viewpoints. So they intimidated. And they set us off on a course of never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts, destabilized regions of the world. And so that type of Republican, the Bill Kristol, Lincoln Cheney, Liz Cheney, Lincoln Project type of Republican, Kinzinger, they're all on the Democratic Party side now. They vote Democrat. They're very proud of it, and they get the support from media. And they're the good Republicans, the good conservatives. We might disagree with them, but they're good conservatives. They're good conservatives. They're good sensible Republicans. These are the people who caused the most damage. They were against marriage equality, and they pushed for the miserably failed foreign policy and caused an era of endless counterinsurgency conflicts and military interventions and toppling of governments. And President Obama did the same thing. Okay, he did the same thing in Libya, which is interesting that nobody brings that up on the left. Says something about their character, or lack thereof. But Hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe to the stock market crash and the Bitcoin crash channel below. This is a very important segment because it's right here. Donald Trump never said anything like this. He never... Could you imagine if Trump said, "You will pay the price"? I mean, it's a pretty clear, ominous, despicable warning aimed to intimidate. This is the antithesis of democracy. Give me a quote, if you're a morally superior liberal Democrat, where this comes close, like anything Trump said that even comes close. And let's not even get to Mashed Potato Brains Joe. Mashed Potato Brains Biden told Charlemagne the God something that, if Trump ever said that, it would be the end of the world. But immediately after Joe said that, Mashed Potato Brains, our president, the Washington Post, and every other liberal publication or newsletter of the Democratic Party said, "Oh, it's not that bad. Trump is worse. Trump is worse." Their entire lives are devoted to the phrase "Trump is worse," when in reality he's not. Donald Trump never said anything close to, quote, "I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price." Okay? And then you have somebody armed who is there to end Kavanaugh's life, and Democrats don't care. They actually put, I don't know how the FBI isn't going after certain organizations that actually put the addresses of these Supreme Court justices online. Okay, that's why you have the Second Amendment. When I had a message that was sent to me with criminal intent on Twitter years back, I don't have Twitter anymore, but I went to the police and filed a police report on the Twitter profile. Didn't even need the name of the human being, but it was on the Twitter profile. And the police officer said, "Well, you know what to do." And I was on the left at that time, and he said, I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you know what to do. Arm yourself, And the Second Amendment is there, and I did. And the Second Amendment is there for American citizens to protect themselves. Now listen closely, Democrats. Wonderful, highly educated liberal Democrats who are beautiful people who are fighting to protect the planet and to help humanity from Trump. Second Amendment is there to protect you and your family from deranged maniacs and lunatics who think that they're either morally superior or they've lost their minds or they just intent on committing as much atrocities as possible. That's what the Second Amendment is there for. It's to protect you. So it takes a while, or it takes a certain time from the police when you call them. If you have the Second Amendment, if you've armed yourself like I have, like Tim Pool has, like others have, then you have not only a fighting chance, but you have a very, very good, the odds are in your favor that you can protect yourself. In other countries, the criminals have the leverage. And in Democratic-run states with the strictest laws, guess what? And I'm going to say this slowly also for wonderful, highly educated Democrats, okay? Look up the definition of a criminal. Criminals don't abide by laws. No. And they're actually going to circumvent laws. They're actually going to break laws. Yeah, because they're criminals. And law-abiding citizens will follow any legislation you do to erase the Second Amendment. The criminals will not. People intent on committing harm will not. That's why when you go into a court, you go into any courthouse, you go into any government building, go into any Hollywood studio. I mean, talking about like liberal Democrats, God bless them, very educated, the biggest hypocrites on the planet. When it comes to their safety, you better believe armed security. You better believe. But God forbid, no. It's immoral. It's immoral for you, but not immoral for them. Of course. That's the way it works. But the most innocent among us, and we've seen these tragedies. When you allow a madman an hour, it doesn't matter. Just, I'm trying to be YouTube-friendly guidelines here. Democrats live in the fantasy world. We have to limit capacity. If you give a person who is intent on committing the most heinous atrocities an hour, or 10 minutes even, it doesn't matter about the number of that you allow society to have. There needs to be reciprocal force immediately, right then and there, to protect the most innocent among us. That's why, like I said, when you go to a courthouse, you go to a government building, you go to Hollywood, a Hollywood studio, you're going to be passing armed guards. Because these wonderful, wonderful, amazing liberals, they want their safety. They love their safety. Not so much your safety, but their safety, yes, they love it. But God forbid, no, you can't have, no, teachers, no, they can't be armed, no. What kind of society will we live in? Well, we live in the society. Go to any. If a madman, God forbid, or if anyone just visiting goes to any Hollywood studio, you'll pass armed security. Okay, these hypocrites are unbelievable. But then again, I mean, you have hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on security details for Democratic politicians. So. But the House will not give that security to the Supreme Court because they want to intimidate. They want to intimidate. They cannot defeat Republicans or Trump Republicans on the merits of an argument. This is what look, Bernie Sanders, at that moment in time, I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. My writing was shared hundreds of thousands of times in the Hill, the Huffington Post salon. And I've been published in the Federalist recently. I predicted the market crash we're seeing in my article. So subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel and the Bitcoin Crash channel below. And read that article I wrote in October of 2021. I've been saying this in the playlist on H.A. Goodman on the Stock Market Crash channel since September of 2021, and read my Federalist article in October of 2021 talking about the stock market, predicting the stock market crash we're seeing. But when Bernie Sanders was cheated, the Supreme Court was now given to Republicans because he was the only chance in 2016 to defeat Trump. He would have defeated Trump in 2016. I'm actually glad Trump won in 2016 because we had a great foreign policy and a great economy. Now we have a horrendous foreign policy and an economy in free fall, and it's going to be a catastrophe. It'll be a 2008 Lehman Brothers AIG type of recession, unfortunately. So subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel and the Bitcoin Crash channel. But they did this to themselves. They don't run, like, Democrats don't run on logic and reason. They run on emotion. Propaganda is about emotion. It's not about logic or reason or information. Not about information. They're very focused on information. Oh, this information is not accurate. No. It's about emotion. They want to suppress doubt and suspicion of Joe or Hunter or Hillary. And I want a Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024. Please, God, please. Or Hillary DeSantis 2024. Okay? No one on YouTube wants a Hillary Clinton nomination in the Democratic Party more than H.A. Goodman. Nobody. We have to redo 2016. We have to. For many reasons. But I also want wonderful YouTubers to tell their audience to vote for Hillary again. That's something that I would love to see. Especially the ones who claim to, like, oppose the system, the 1 million to 4 million sub. Oh yeah, they're gonna do it all over again. I want to see that. But Clinton can easily defeat mashed potato brains Joe in the primary, but they don't even really have a primary. It's all, like, fabricated. It's like a theatrical performance. Anyway, I want a Hillary, Donald Trump 2024. But anyway, my point is, Democrats did this to themselves. In 2016, they cheated Bernie Sanders. He would have defeated Trump at that moment in time. Now Bernie can't defeat anyone, but because they won't let him. And he also can't. But they won't let him, even if he gets close to doing so. In the primary, that's an absolute farce that they have. And then they pontificate about democracy. But They could have defeated. They would have defeated Trump in 2016. You might disagree, but at that moment in time, I live in 2016. Okay, like I'm like a dinosaur, a relic, like from 2016. If you wanna, it's like I'm telling you, that moment in time, he would have won those 3 states in the Midwest. Okay, barely, but he would have won, and Democrats would have had those 3 Supreme Court justices. But they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. So they lost. And Comey actually did them in. They actually could have won with Clinton, but I knew something was going to happen, like Comey writing that letter. It was James Comey that writing the letter. It wasn't the DNC emails or the Kremlin or whatever. That's like a whole farce that naive, gullible people believe who know nothing about politics. The reason James Comey, what he did was cover up the Clinton email probe because it wasn't a probe. It was like, oh, we couldn't find intent with top secret intelligence outside on servers running outside of the United States government. Well, how did the top secret intel get there? Does Strzok know? Does McCabe know? Does Clapper or Brennan or Comey? Of course they know. Or maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't care. But they probably know. But they won't tell anybody. Nobody understands how that happened. How top secret intel can get on private servers. But see, again, they didn't even question that. They said there was no intent. And then James Comey, Clinton probably would have won had James Comey, but I was saying that she was going to lose to Trump. That was another thing I told everybody. Nobody believed. Just like I said, we're going to have a market crash, and we're seeing a crash in slow motion. We'll have that AIG moment, unfortunately. It's going to be terrible. But anyway, the Comey letter 1 week before, that's what tanked Clinton's campaign. Okay? But I knew that like a person like James Comey, like there was that I said Clinton would lose to Trump because there were too many things going on, like the probe, the investigation, that he threw a curveball. I thought that she would get indicted because obviously anyone who did that would get the indictment. But they covered it up because I thought that the Bureau was apolitical. I was so delusional. But I did say Clinton would lose to Trump. James Comey wrote that letter. She would have actually defeated Trump barely, but James Comey wrote that letter. That's what ended the Clinton campaign. Okay, then Comey, because Comey's smart. He said, I have the goods on you also. He had the goods on Trump. Well, he didn't even have the goods on Trump. He had the goods on Clinton. He didn't have the goods on Trump. But then he made everything up with the Steele dossier. So, I didn't know that the Steele dossier was purchased by Clinton. Oh, my goodness. He knew everything. But that letter was a message saying, hey, I know exactly what's going on. What you did was criminal. Maybe he was expecting her to win, but he actually tanked the whole thing, Comey. And so he wrote the letter. Then they lost. Prior to that, Democrats cheated Bernie Sanders. Then Comey said, hey, I have the goods on you to Trump with the dossier. Then Trump fired Comey. And then Comey's memo started the Mueller probe. My God almighty, the corruption's unbelievable. But anyway, the whole point is that they would have, had they chosen Bernie Sanders, or had they allowed a fair and neutral primary, Bernie Sanders would have won. Because you had media also complicit. So if people say, well, that's not true, he wasn't really even close. Yeah, well, President Obama's campaign talked about how, we don't have to get into 2016 too deeply, but anyway, they did this to themselves. That's my point. They did this to themselves. That's my point. They could have had 3 liberal Supreme Court justices, but they wanted their cake, and they wanted to have their cake and eat it too, and so it didn't work out. That's why we need a redo. Do it all over again. Hillary Trump 2024. But see, Democrats, they're so utterly corrupt that they undermine their own interests, and then they don't know what to do. So now they're so upset, and they want to intimidate the conservative Supreme Court justices that would have been liberal Supreme Court justices had they not cheated their own candidate in Bernie Sanders. That should tell you what they know about democracy, which is not much. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Schumer was pretty clear and direct in terms of his despicable statement to Kavanaugh. And the fact that nobody on the left cares says something about who they are as human beings. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. I'll be back in about 3 hours. Be here on this channel and go to the stock market crash channel and the Bitcoin crash channel.